We love to serve our country that God has blessed so well. In peace and love and happiness, we will forever dwell. We ask for God's protection and guidance on our way. The People's Action Movement will strive from day to day. The People's Action Movement is here and here to stay. To serve our country that God has blessed so well. In peace and love and happiness, we will forever dwell. We ask for God's protection and guidance on our way. The People's Action Movement strive from day to day. The People's Action Movement is here and here to stay. We love to serve our country, we that God has blessed so well. In peace and love and happiness, we will for God's protection. Action Move. We ask for God's protection and guidance on our way. Sing together now, my people. Sing together now, my people. People's Action Move. Let's strive from day to day to day. People's Action Movement. Action Movement is here. People's Action Movement is here. Now People's Action Movement is here.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Perspectives. I believe this is our 10th episode, and we are so happy that you can join us. We know that this show is gaining popularity. We see all of your comments, even to extend the time, and we promise that we're going to consider extending the time eventually. But for now, it's an hour. And on this evening's episode, we have a very special guest. You know, all across the diaspora, we have kittians and divisions who are really doing well and want to share their expertise and their experience with us ever so often when they come to our shows. And so this evening, we have in our presence a gentleman who has done very well in the diaspora. I'm going to allow him to tell you who he is, and then we're going to segue into the conversation. The main conversation tonight is actually around sustainability and sustainability of small island states. And he would share information along those lines, and we are going to take that information and see how much of it we can relate to St. Kitts Nevis and how much of it can in fact become a reality down the road. And so without much further ado, I'm going to allow our guest to introduce himself to you, and then we'll take the conversation from there. So welcome.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and to all the viewers. This is my first time on Perspectives, and hopefully not the last. And I hope that what I'll share with you is quite informative and something that you can take and provide some level of intent to execute towards how can we use sustainable technology in order to empower and also improve the lives of people not only in the Federation, St. Kitts Nevis, but also around the region, the Caribbean. So just to give you a brief introduction of myself, I'm a son of the soil. I was educated here, both elementary and secondary. Went to Bass State High School, went to the sixth form, where I focused on STEM, and then went off to college to pursue academics in chemical engineering. My graduate degree, I have a PhD in material chemistry, and fundamentally my background is in materials. So I've spent over 25 years in research and development, working for major 500 Fortune companies. Currently, I am the Vice President of Research and Development for North America at Arkema. Arkema is a French company, a corporate headquarters in France and regionally in Pennsylvania, King of Prussia. So I think what I want to say to all citizens of this country and everyone listening that are not from the Federation is that if I can acclaim such level not only of education but career success, there are many of you getting the same education that I did that can get there too, right? So my job is to inspire for all of you to aspire to greatness and to invest in not only education but invest in your careers so that you can come back and give back. Those of you in the diaspora, I want to lead the way so that you could come back and give. And talking about sustainable development and sustainable technology, when we hear about sustainability, I know it's the big mega trend. It's the topic that everyone, it's a buzz. It's like a bumper sticker. But my job is really to educate you on what sustainable technology means, what sustainability is, and how we can make an impact in repairing the deleterious impact of greenhouse emissions and climate change using technology that are present today in the Federation. So if you talk about several areas that I focus on in my career, let's look at solar energy and what it can do and how we can use it wisely. We may not have enough land mass to fuel the whole of St. Kitts, to provide energy for the whole of St. Kitts, but how can we use it smartly in collaborating with other types of energy?
I see you're keen to jump right in, but before you get there, what we normally, I'd like us to break it down. So I'd like you to share with us, in the context of this discussion, what sustainability is, because like you said, it is becoming a buzzword. I mean, everybody talks about sustainability,
Right. Yep.
and I'm not sure sometimes if we don't use the word loosely without understanding what it is we're trying to convey. So in the context of this discussion, just share for us what sustainability is, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you for breaking the pace there. I appreciate that. So there are two concepts that live today. There is climate change, global warming. There's many different languages or terminology or semantics to describe what we have done to the planet. Now, sustainability is what solutions that you have to repair the impact of the negative impact of climate change and global warming. So I'll give you an example. All of the Freon that we've been using for years, whether it's in our refrigerators at home or the cars that we drive for the air condition, created chemicals in the past that have eaten through the ozone. And when that have happened, that allowed more UV rays to come through, as well as how gases are absorbed in the atmosphere. That's one impact of climate change. The other impact is carbon dioxide. When you hear about decarbonization by 2050, is how can you remove any carbon content that is burned to produce carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide creates havoc. All the algae you see washing up on the shore is because of the fact that we produce over 240 pounds per year from the 30,000 cars that we have in St. Kitts. We didn't have that amount growing up. Now there's 30,000.
Where did you get that figure from, though?
I can't reveal my sources, but so we have 30,000 cars, 1,500 used cars every year, about 500 cars, new cars that are imported by the industries that are responsible for imports, whether it's Oxford, TDC, and whoever else that are importing cars. And the growth rate of cars continue to increase steadily at about the 3 to 4%. There's more utilization of private transportation. If that continues using fossil fuel, it means that fossil fuel is made up of carbon material. When you burn it, you get carbon dioxide. If we continue to do that, which contributes today for 30% of our emissions, greenhouse emissions, right? 30%, which means that could go from 30 to 40. And then if you add all the other island mass in the Caribbean, just the Caribbean, of 1 million square miles, and we're small, so you could imagine the amount of cars. That accumulation of carbon dioxide contributes to the overall global warming.
So there's a problem. There's a problem there.
There's a problem there.
So in the context of this discussion, how do you change that? Because a lot of us think that when we begin to do well, we buy a car. And in as much, I think there's about 14,000 households in St. Kitts and Nevis. It might be more since the last census. But there is this impression that when you do well, you buy a car. So it could be a situation where you have a 5-member family and there are 5 cars in the home. Now, how do you as a country tell people that maybe they should make one car work, or somebody should take public transportation. What is the solution? I'm effectively asking, what is the solution that you would recommend as it is now?
So part of it is how do you restrict what people may consider quality of life by making some ameliorations now, right? And so your idea of maybe providing more public transportation, I think that's a short-term transient approach to resolving the problem. But I'm not really here to give you solutions that may be good for one thing and then affect the other thing, because we still have to have a thriving economy. So I think my approach is repair the problem and provide a sustainable technology that can provide economic impact, provide jobs, a new economy, what we call the green economy. So the green economy has started all over the world. Why do we have to wait when everybody is halfway up the stairs to just begin? So my point is that we have the opportunity to do that, and that's really a good, potent question that you just asked me. So how you do that? You look at the charging station, right? You can't have an electric car without infrastructure, right? So you have different forms now to address the decarbonization with respect to greenhouse emissions. So if you use hydrogen, gas, they're stored in tanks. Right now the growth rate is extremely high. You're talking about 2030, it becomes close to, I think, about a $200 billion economy globally, or even more than that. The growth rate, as I said, is extremely high, which means that more people are looking towards hydrogen fuel. Now, hydrogen is produced from extremely clean, right? No carbon. Hydrogen is produced by splitting of water, by electrolysis. You have water, it splits into hydrogen and oxygen, right? We can start the process now by buying those units and testing it out, and even buying one car. You gotta just lead by example, right? And we call that more of research pilot. You don't have to go into, you have to manage risk. You don't have to go into, oh, I'm gonna go build, 5 hydrogen stations and storage, and then expect someone to all of a sudden start importing cars. So what you have to do is start more of a research and development concept. So hydrogen fuel, there are 2 types. There's green and there's blue. The green hydrogen is the splitting of water to produce hydrogen, extremely clean. It turns back into water. See how clean that can be? The other one is using methane gas and turning it into hydrogen also. So but that's not green because you're using methane carbon. But then you take the carbon dioxide and then you capture it. That's called carbon capture. So there's 2 forms of hydrogen. That is something that we can do here. Now, the problem with the electric vehicle is we don't have a grid to support it as yet. I hear things about geothermal, etc., but that's going to take some time and some investment. So the short-term solution to electric vehicle and having charging stations is basically getting a solar house to support it. Just where you have some of the gas stations, you build charging stations, you have a solar capture, and you have a charging station there. You charge your cars. To go to Sandy Point is about 17 miles. 17, 10, 11, depends, yeah, When I had my GPS, I think, that was Kittishan Hill. It was about 17 miles to Kittishan Hill from Bastille. Now, just imagine this. An electric vehicle is about 300 to 400 miles. That's how much you get out of it, right? Hydrogen.
Before it requires the charging?
Yes.
Yes.
Hydrogen, about the same. The only issue is that hydrogen is a little bit more expensive now, right? But by the time you have adoption, it's all about, as you know, volume, supply and demand. The price just drops precipitously, right? So it's 2.5 times more expensive right now than gasoline. So cost is an issue. So I'm not going to sell you, a shell.
Well, I think for us, it's often said that we are 10 years behind the technology in the Caribbean, and it might be in our, in our neck of the woods, a little bit futuristic. And I hear you about the solar stations and all of that. But oftentimes I think we do these things and then we have a problem with maintenance because it's all well and good to recommend these kind of fixes, and then on the other side of it we don't have the resources to keep them going and to maintain them and all of that. So I don't know if sometimes in our part of the world it's putting the cat before the horse. But in any event, I heard an expression many years ago that the institutions that give grant funding would give you grant funding, but they would never put money into research and development. In other words, they give you what they researched and developed, but they would never allow you to do your own research and development. And maybe that is something over the years that perhaps has sort of retarded the growth of people in the Caribbean, well, to use the classification that was once used in the third world. So no wonder then we are always a little bit far behind with the technology than people in the first world countries. Now, thankfully, that probably can change now. And as you were speaking, I was thinking, since we're talking about developmental opportunities and economic opportunities for small island states, using the whole umbrella of sustainability, whether or not there might be an opportunity for, I don't know, maybe some investment of some sort, some factory of some sort that we can do some of these things that you're talking about that would make the end product a little bit less expensive, so that it could be accessible. Because to be when you are the first user of technology, early adopters, it is very expensive.
Yes.
And so what do you say to perhaps an opportunity where maybe an investor can see all of this solar energy that we have? And I heard your colleague on Win FM on the program a few days ago mention calculated all of the energy that our sun gives. So is there any opportunity for there to be some sort of investment, some factory, something that we can capitalize on?
So there's something that in my area we call open innovation, and open innovation is a concept of working with collaborators. So in my world, it doesn't matter what company I work for, we don't do it alone. We source from outside. I'm talking about human capital. So I can go outside, and if I don't have the technology in-house, I license the technology, I collaborate with another company, either B2B, B2C, whatever, A to B. I collaborate with that company so that I could get that expertise, especially if time is not on my side, right? So I think what we have to be open to in the Caribbean is the concept of open innovation, and realizing that St. Kitts may be too small to do it by ourselves. And when we talk about investment, we have partnerships. If you go into the United Nations, if you go into these conferences, I don't think you should be any different from me. When I go to conferences, I don't come back with empty hands, right? I come back with who's the next investor that can work with us, who's the next company can work with us. Is there a government grant that I'm going to get? I think you need to start putting your citizens to work, right? There's no free ride here.
I agree. And on that note, I'd like to ask, how can we tap into all of this intellectual capital that the diaspora has, that perhaps we have not used sufficiently in this part of the world?
So I think it's really all about confidence and comfortability. I think, and I'm speaking from the head, I think people in St. Kitts and Nevis has to be comfortable, in the Caribbean period, has to be comfortable that just because I have a different experience, and in some cases it could be a more advanced global experience because I have the facilities and the capital. I've been exposed to those things that an engineer here may not be exposed to. For instance, you don't need a PhD in chemical engineering in St. Kitts because there's no research and development particularly to do. To work in a bottling company or the St. Kitts Breweries, you really only need a bachelor's degree in any engineering discipline to work there. So I think citizens here have to be comfortable and be trusted that we're coming to give and not to take. And I think
I hear that very
that's
often.
right. And so there's some barriers to being able to take full advantage of individuals in the diaspora. And what I would say is somebody here lead, we're ready. I have many colleagues in diaspora, and their complaint is that, they don't get a call back, or when they try to do something, they don't get, the reciprocity that they're expecting. So what I would say is, how could we intentionally make that connection where someone here form that organization, that committee, and embed us into a real organization that is responsible for strategic insights, planning, execution. Well, nobody's going to just stay from diaspora, go on Zoom, talk for one day, and then you call that a diaspora that's actionable. That's just talking.
Right.
So I think that it needs to be part of any government institution where you actually set up a diaspora cabinet and
Or maybe constituency.
a constituency. And about 30, 40 something years ago, when I was in high school, the first ministry that I saw was women's ministry. That was new. I think we're always open for evolution. We can't stay stagnant, right? And then then I realized that there's other ministries that kept popping up. So I think I think your question segued into a very important aspect of what we need to do. When you look at the amount of individuals we have outside, as opposed to in St. Kitts, and are doing extremely well, I think we need to take advantage of that human capital. And to your question, I think it's all about organizational structure. Back to you is, how do you think about structuring it? Because we're in the diaspora, we're ready.
Somebody would take notes after they hear this, because it is time. I think, in fact, we're probably a number of years behind, and we really have to fast track using that influence and experience and all of that rests with the folks that live in the diaspora and who really want to conscientiously give back and don't get the opportunity to do so. But let's swing back to the main subject matter of sustainability. So the first part of the conversation, we were basically talking about how we could harness maybe solar and specifically as it relates to the vehicle. But we also have opportunities maybe in wind energy and maybe other areas. And it is almost a sad script that we live on an island, and we continue over the years to pay such high tariffs for electricity. I mean, I paid my electricity bill today. Could I tell you it was over $1,000?
I could believe that.
And I think the time is right and ripe for that to shift to something that is much more affordable, given all of the God-made natural resources that we have on this island.
I think the issue is, Laverne, we need to. I'm correct.
Sure.
Yeah. I think we need to move. It's time for us in the Caribbean to move from a commoditized consumerism society to innovative society. There is nothing that really holding us back besides the fact that we just need to be educated about how to utilize that technology. So an invention and innovation is different. You could invent things, but innovation is the commercialization of that invention. So I think we have enough talent here. I'm pretty convinced of that, of being able to evolve and moving towards doing the things that we talk about. And so I want to be specific here about the question you asked. You talk about solar, you talk about wind, there's geothermal. Now, when I ask someone here about what we're doing about sustainability, they say, we're doing that. so I kind of
what was that?
I kind of smile, right? And so for me, I work in a different framework, right? There's something called a technology roadmap. If you can't show me a technology roadmap, it means that you're not doing anything, right? A technology roadmap is where you could have all the different sources of energy, and you start from 2024 to 2050. Believe it or not, that's how it works. And then you have the 5-year roadmap in which you can say solar and what percentage of solar you start off with. You say, well, I want to do 10% of residential roofs by 2026. And you scale 30% by 2025. And then you said, okay, how could I hybridize this now? Then you go to wind, and then you say, here's wind. We'll start here because we need some infrastructure, so we'll start in 2026, right? That's what you call a technology innovation roadmap, not a political roadmap. So if someone don't show me a roadmap, a strategic technology roadmap, they're not doing anything, right? Because the roadmap would have a layout of what the technology is, right? And then once you know the roadmap, then you could go intentionally to investors and say, here's my roadmap. No investors are going to listen to you for anything when you tell them that, oh, I want to build a solar house in Oro. They look at you and like, what are you talking about? They want to see a roadmap of how you're going to scale and what's the plan, the energy plan. What's the strategic energy sustainable plan looks like. And then when you lay that out, they'll be able to say, okay, here's where I can plug. I can help you. And you must know how much energy you want to produce for what the population. That's called a complete strategic plan. So I'm convinced, and I don't want to sound arrogant, that there's no one here at this point. The people who know how to do that, because they have to do it every day in big global economies, are in the diaspora. Now, implementing a solar system, yes, you have people who know how to do that. But having a clear strategic plan, a 5 to 10 year plan with a cost analysis and a financial analysis of what the NPV is going to look like, the return on investment, all of that work has to be done before any investor. Why would any investor treat you any different from treating me when I go in my career and want to build a new plant? They treat me the same way, right? Why would they treat you any different? So whether you go to Taiwan, whether you go to Canada, and whoever you find, or you go anywhere around the Caribbean and you want to collaborate and you get an investor, you got to do your homework. And I'm very convinced that there's no one doing that.
I can't go against that. It would be foolhardy of me to do so. So, but what I'm hearing too is that, and I'm going to say something that perhaps is an unpopular opinion, but if we are going to strategically look at a St. Kitts and Nevis that is forward thinking and creative, I had the MP Sean Richards sit in that same chair a few weeks ago talking about creative leadership. I think we really have to look at like
collaborative leadership,
right? Where we want the country to be and how we're going to get there, and that would also mean preparing our resources to take us there. Right now, I think we are too highly skilled, with professions like doctors and lawyers and everybody else seem not to matter. And I think unless we change that dynamic, we are not going to reach very far very fast?
Well, I think it's all about strategy again. And by the way, you hear me use that word many times because I've known and accomplished as a strategic leader, right, in my field. So, where do we want to go? Do you know where we want to go, what we want to look like? Do you know whether or not we want to stay a 42,000 population, or we want to increase our population by 10, 20%? I mean, these are questions. These are strategic questions, right?
Yeah.
So, in order to know what to do, you have to know where you want to go. Do you know what GDP you want to look like in the next 5 years, what GDP growth you want? And then what's the requisite industries and technology that you need to take you there? So it's difficult to have a conversation when you don't have leaders with strategic insight. And when we talk about creative leadership and collaborative leadership, it's also difficult to go anywhere when you have a 50-50, 60-40 divisive country. And I don't want people to say to me when I say something like that, well, America is divided too. Well, monkey see, monkey do. I remember that term. You don't have to be that, right? So if we had to come together and start using 100% of our population and not be divided by certain circumstances,
Yes.
I think we'll be much better off. But I think overall, I think we need more strategic leadership rather than transactional leadership.
So how could we fix the impact of climate change by leveraging technology, Dr. Martin?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So obviously that's part of what I do for a living in research and development. So when we talk about technology, there are several aspects of technology tied to sustainability. There's bio-circularity, which is the plastic that we use and we dump into the ocean and into the landfill. We have to curve back on that and go back to paper and cloth and other type of renewable resources that becomes dump and can be biodegradable. There's things like polylactic acid. You're probably not aware that some of the cups are made of polylactic acid, which is a degradable plastic. And some of the plastics that we're accustomed to, nylon and PT and other type of plastics that have create havoc over the years. There's billions of plastics in the Pacific and Indian Ocean just sitting there, right? So obviously the impact we had over the last 40 years of great technology that is plastics now is coming home to roost, right? And we have to clean that up, right? So what's the technology for that? Ushering new technologies like biodegradable polymers going to become a part. Once big global markets begin to use it, it's going to just automatically come to St. Kitts, right? So the plastics that you see, the cups that you use when we're at parties and at home, plates, going to all be renewable type of circular, what you call bio-circularity, which is they're going to be recyclable also.
Else.
You can take them and then you can recycle them. Some of the plastics today, you can't recycle, they just sit and they can't be biodegraded. And then you have renewable resources, which is using renewable materials such as castor oil. The company that I work for, Arkema, takes castor oil and we turn it into nylon. So the sneakers, the helmets, many other industrial, electrical applications, the nylon comes from castor oil, right? And so Jamaica has a lot of castor oil. I think it's called black castor oil. One of the best castor oil actually in the world, right? And castor oil, you could do so much with it. There's so much other uses. And then there's the climate cherry tree, right? When I looked at the chemical structure, it's like my eyes lit up, right? What's in it? I have ideas for that. That's all what we call renewable resources, right? So once we start switching from carbon-based material that doesn't degrade or can't recycle to carbon-based material that can degrade, and that is renewable, meaning we're not getting it from fossil fuel, like polyethylene plastic. We're getting it from a renewable source and then turn it into a recyclable source where it can be recycled. That's how much jobs that can create. That is immense, right? Because that's a transformation you create in your economy. You're going to need chemists, you're going to need chemical engineers. And then on the energy side, you're thinking about all the jobs, electrical engineers and technicians. When we talk about solar energy, when we talk about hydrogen fuel, both chemical, mechanical engineers to drive what we call a green economy. You've heard that terminology used in the US and other places in Europe, the green economy. That is what we call green economy. I think the point I'm trying to make is that we can't be close to 2050, close to decarbonization and trying to be part of the green economy. We got to get in now, right? There's a percentage of that growth rate, that revenue, global revenue, that belongs to us. And we got to take it so we could eat out of it, right? And we talk about wind energy, solar energy, geothermal. Those are the energy to either decrease carbon, move towards a net zero carbon by 2050, and at the same time simultaneously create that green economy and repair the ozone and repair the amount of carbon dioxide produced that create the deleterious effects that we see from climate change, strange weather patterns, droughts, lots of hurricanes fueled in the Caribbean Sea and Atlantic Ocean because there's more heat that's supposed to be there, the leveling of the seawater. These are all the deleterious effects that you and I and your kids, you have to teach them. Education is part of it. Sustainability should be embedded as a subject in geography in our primary school, or science. We teach science, and I know the subjects, science and social studies. It has to be embedded now.
Yeah.
So I would say start putting that in curriculums now. There's a lot of content on that. And then at the secondary level, you continue. There's a place for it. You could remove some of the old topics and get it into parts into biology, biochemistry, little chapters here and there. You could get it into geography, and maybe there's not a full place for one subject, but just start inserting it in different place. Like when it comes to energy, that could be in physics, right? Because it's more on the electrical engineering physics side. And chemistry. When it comes to climate change, you could put it in geography, right? We talk about clouds and different things. I taught geography for a year and a half at Bass Day High. So here's the type of things, start changing our curriculum, and I think that we could create I'm preparing the next set of students who is going to usher in this green economy, start preparing them when they go to universities to study these different fields. When they come back, they'll be ripe, they'll be ready to participate and to make impactful entry into what we call this green economy. And not that we're sitting down watching CNN and BBC, hoping and thinking that we're not as smart to participate.
Well, it sounds like it requires a whole mindset shift.
A cultural change.
A cultural change.
That's
I mean, we basically gonna have to revamp everything.
Well,
but as you were talking, I was reflecting that we are perhaps the last CARICOM, I'm subject to correction, we perhaps are the last CARICOM nation to ban plastics. I mean, everybody else has done it, but we are still expecting when we go to the store to bring out our $400 worth of groceries in all these plastic bags.
Levin, I'll ask you a question. Why would people stop using plastics if you never educate them of what the impact of plastic is? Just like I did, just like I laid it out.
Well, that's the thing, right. And so that is why I said that it's going to take a whole cultural shift. I mean, and I was agreeing with you.
Oh, I know.
That the best thing to do is to start in the schools, right. Because when you teach children, they will correct their parents eventually.
It's called adoption. So interestingly, adoption and education is part of the homework that you have to do when you're introducing new technology, right? You're accustomed of using fossil fuel, going to the gas station, filling up your car. And then here am I coming arrogantly tell you, stop using your car tomorrow, here's a hydrogen tank. You don't even understand safety. You hear hydrogen tank, you may think hydrogen bomb, right? First of all, I have to educate you about the safety of using this new evolutionary technology, right? And revolutionary. I have to teach you about the safety, about the utilization rate, what you're going to get from it, so you become comfortable with the technology. It is arrogant for me to tell you tomorrow to switch from fossil fuel because I said so. It's education, so you have to start now, build it into the education system, get people who can go away and study that and become, sustainability officer, whatever type you want to give them, so that they could help to educate and they could help to lead the strategy. I don't think we have, I'm sorry to say, I don't think we have a strategy. And when people say, well, I'm buying an electric car, that's not a strategy. Buying an electric car is not a global, impactful strategy. You have to lay out a 5-year plan, how you're going to do it, where you're going to get, how you're going to resource it, right? How you're going to pay for it, right? And you can change your grid. Geothermal, like I said on the island here on WinFM, is a more long-term strategic plan that could give us a grid that could even support light manufacturing industries.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But in the short term, there's nothing wrong in doing patchwork, right? What I mean by that, and hybridized work, which means, like you said, solar here, set up 3-4 charging stations. You see those companies start importing those Tesla and other cars from China and Taiwan are making the electric vehicles now, right? The big, the hydrogen, they need to be compressed because hydrogen is light, likes to diffuse, right? So they need big, heavy tanks to enclose them. That's a technology that I work on too, in providing the capture, the enclosement for hydrogen. You can get a hydrogen tank, storage tank here, and start getting hydrogen cars. And I would start in government where there's the big trucks and construction companies. That's where hydrogen is best used for now. It's going to make it to cars, but we're still fixing some of the issues with respect to how to store it and safety and other things. But it's been used in Europe to drive diesel trucks and forklifts and those. So we got to lead by example, right? I would say start research and development, a small center. Get your students also learning. So it's not just about teaching. Get labs and then build small pilots, and you could service a few cars, and then you start scaling when you see how it works, right? When you go too big too fast, that's when you fall in problems with where do I get technicians from, right? I have no training. I didn't educate anybody. So then you have solar cells sitting there, or you'd have the hydrogen fuel where nobody know how to actually get it, or they're not using it safely. So I would say I would start with educational development for sustainability, embedded into schools. The leaders in this country, whoever they are, on whatever side they are, get together a strategic plan, a 5 to 10 year roadmap, right? And one that extends out. That's real leadership.
Yeah.
Forget about whether or not you're going to be around to take advantage of it because you're going to be in power, out of power, right? Just have a vision for the future, right? If you're really invested in people and the future and you're confident and comfortable with yourself, you wouldn't be worried about winning and losing. Winning and losing comes by good deeds.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. That's a good summation. And then again, as you were talking about plastics, I wanted to to go back to that a little bit more, because I know I've heard it said that we do not generate, because of our small sizes in the sub-region, particularly in the OECs, we don't generate enough waste for it to be utilized in in any form. And I don't know if perhaps sometimes your size is a disadvantage. So here we have all these plastic bottles. Recently I heard in the news that a shipment of plastic bottles was sent somewhere. I don't know, I guess it was a couple tons. So the thing is, if we don't find a way to get these bottles and all of that, these plastic bottles, collected and shipped and maybe sold for some other product, what do you do in the meantime? Because I drank from the pipe and I didn't die. I'm sure you did too. But
Right.
suddenly all of us are drinking from these plastic bottles. And like you said, our oceans are now filled with these plastic bottles. So what do we do?
And so if you don't make an effort to say, well, all the plastic bottles that I'm importing must be degradable, biodegradable. So there's, as I said, polylactic acid is a plastic material now in which you can make plastic bottles from. If they're being made from the same traditional source, fossil fuel or plastic that cannot be degraded, even if they can be recycled, which means reprocessed again, I think you got to make a commitment to fix that so that they just don't go in the ocean and sit in the ocean. Also, it's about discipline, having every place, maybe in the street, recycling containers where people can drop their bottles in there, and having proper garbage disposal. Some of the disposal, I don't know if it's cleaned up since, but garbage just used to go on the street. So I think part of it is also discipline. Besides education is discipline, and maybe enforcement and reinforcement to get people to comply. And then the other thing about the plastic bags, some of the methods that we used before of using, I remember I was going to buy bread. My mom had several bread bags. That's a business by itself. If you were to get rid of all those plastic bags in the stores, replace it with paper bags, and have people bring their own straw bags and bread bags, and the straw made of a recyclable material and a degradable material. You have straw bag, grocery cloth bags, and just imagine you have someone in the textile tailoring business making a bunch of different bread bags or grocery bags with different designs, and you take your bag out to your car, you put your groceries in it. That's a way to get rid of all that plastic, along with paper. There are so many ideas, but it's really about it's about education, it's about discipline, and it's about having a really good strategic plan. It's no different. I remember there's things that you remember and I remember, right? When we talk about growing up, teachers and nurses came to our school to talk about health education. They came to talk about how to clean our take. That's part of the strategic plan education, right? You can't get people to adopt if you don't provide some leadership. And so I would say, until people are serious about their intentions and what they want to do, talking to me, it's really not worthwhile.
Well, we hope that this conversation would move the needle a quarter of the way. And as we wrap up, I just wanted to ask a curious question. Typically, who drives this whole roadmap? Is it, and especially in the context of a small island, is it the private sector or government, or both? Because I think sometimes, not I think, from what I've seen over the last few decades, there's almost this expectation that the government should lead on all of these things, not leaving a lot of room for the private sector to do these things. And again, back to the conversation that I've had with Dr. Richards about creative leadership. I think people are looking for solutions that may not necessarily come from government, but may be driven by the private sector with the support, whether it is the policy support or the tax structure, whatever. And so, if we are to get to that place that you are envisioning, who really should take the lead? The government or the private sector?
So I think you're asking a nuanced question, albeit a good one. I think that it's, you talk to Dr. Richards about creative leadership. I think part of my segment here is about collaborative leadership. And we spoke earlier about what is called open innovation. So we're in a collaborative society, a global economy. And so I would say both lead. So it's about government teaming up with private sector. It's about government going outside of the country, teaming up with other OECS countries, teaming up with other CARICOM countries, and teaming up with other United Nations partners to solve this whole problem. This is a global problem. So why do you think that a 68 square miles with 30,000 people could solve it alone? So I think the whole point is for you, it's collaborative leadership. So both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I like the sound of that. Makes perfect sense to me. And so as we wrap up, you've come home, I guess you took in some of the music festival and you perhaps had some coconut dumpling and all of the things that you wouldn't normally
Maybe
get
not
over
enough.
there. Maybe not enough.
But
which means you should come back more often
But
then.
I'm also a big calorie watcher.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in something called food security, which is a whole different topic.
It is, because I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
that is one that we really need to develop a lot more conscientiousness about. So,
Right, because carbohydrates are not as fun as we think it is. It has
well, it used to
very,
be. I still used to run it out
very
and never
deleterious
get
effect.
fat, you know, but I
Yeah.
guess we behind the computer. We ate a lot of coconut dumplings and didn't get fat, but I guess things have changed now. But I
That's right.
wanted really to ask you, you know, a big picture question so that as you come home ever so often, I'm not sure how often you come back
Maybe
home.
every year now, maybe every 2 years.
I mean, developmentally, what are you seeing that make you think that we are getting there, albeit slowly? Or conversely, what are you not seeing that we ought to have been doing by now?
Yeah, so I think we have immense potential to ascend to greatness. I think if we were to diversify our human capital, like you said, and not trying to force fit doctors and lawyers. But I think to prepare for this new economy, this green economy, the mega trends in technology, I think we need to start looking at how we can invest more in STEM and bring those STEM resources back to this country to help in the topic we had for the last hour. Also, I think that what we're doing, we're not very good at strategy. We're too transactional, so we have to start developing more strategic plans. I think we have to have an education campaign, and all of us have to get our hands dirty and do that. I think the more it becomes a beating drum, the more people could listen and learn and adopt. And I think there are other aspects of our economy with technology, with tourism or hospitality industry, with the medical area. You have medical tourism, you have ecotourism, and technology tourism all combined. I think that's the vision, that's the bold vision for the future that I see. So I'm looking at this from, 100 feet pole. Obviously, there's a lot of barriers to get there, and there's a lot of hard work to get there. So by no means I'm advocating that this is a cakewalk to do this. I think it requires creative and collaborative leadership and participation from all, including those in the diaspora. And I think I'm extremely optimistic about the future of the Federation when I'm here, and about the people and their inspiration to learn. But I'm concerned about our ability to provide that assistance with strong, strategic, visionary leadership. That is what I think we have to work on, and we can get it. We shouldn't assume that we know it all. We should go and get upskilled in that area so that we could come back and help the next generation of youths that are thirsty to be part of this topic that we're talking about tonight.
Well, Dr. Martin, I want to thank you so very much for taking an hour out of your precious vacation time to come and sit with us to talk about this ever important, ever pervasive topic of sustainability. It was quite an enlightening conversation, and I trust that you would find time to stop by anytime you're back on the island, or perhaps we have the technology here. We can actually do a Zoom. We actually had a Zoom,
Yeah, sure.
a Zoom
I'm
call,
open to
a
that.
Zoom Perspective, edition of Perspective a few weeks ago. So thank you so much for sharing. It's important that we integrate the views, the expertise, and all of that of our people in the diaspora with what we're doing here if we are to truly transform our economy and our island. And so I want to thank you on behalf of all of us who have listened to this program and have taken in the essence of what you've been saying. We wish you pleasant journeys back to your adopted home and hope to see you again soon.
And back to you. Thank you for being patient and being such a collaborative moderator or interviewer.
That's the word of the night, collaborative.
Right. That's right. And this has been inspiring for me. And my hope is that we can both be inspirational leaders to continue to develop our country, the people around us. So thank you to Perspectives. Thank you to Sheldon Pemberton for inviting me to this segment. And thank you again, Lavon, for being such a conscientious moderator.
Thank you so much. So we'll see you again on the next episode of Perspectives. Until then, take care, and we'll see you soon.